All right, welcome everyone to the NWO show, your source for everything New World. We are thrilled to have you guys here with us. We're starting off strong with the numbers already. Um, it has been a while since we've had the opportunity to stream, and the reason for that is, frankly, there hasn't been a whole lot happening. Um, the end of the beta got announced, and we had made predictions that those predictions were proven wrong by some pretty sizable changes that they need to make to the game, as well as the delay, which we announced on our Discord. We didn't feel that that needed an entire episode to go into. But with that, I want to thank everybody. Of course, we love our community. We love our Patreons. We love our supporters, our subscribers, our followers, our pretty much everybody who just supports us, supports the channel, supports the company. Um, Fundamentally speaking, you guys are the reason we do this, and we wouldn't have it any other way. So, yeah. I'm, of course, joined by my co-host, McLeod. Um, we are excited to share with you guys a bunch of resources that we've been cultivating over the last several weeks. I think that there's some really cool stuff here that that people have been developing that I feel like everybody should know about. And I think that there's a good opportunity now to share it. So first and foremost, for those that don't know, I also am a large part of running the r-New World Game subreddit, where we merged the two subreddits just prior to the beta, and we've now ironed out a lot of the issues and challenges of our auto moderation and stuff like that. But in our effort to minimize the number of Reddits there are, we've also added a Reddit. So we felt that it was a good idea to pull focus on clan recruitment or company recruitment away from the main subreddit. I think that that's a solid. I think that's a solid, healthy choice to avoid just the enormous amount of spam that we were seeing. And I think that the mods over at r-New World Companies have been able to pick up the slack really well. It's not an easy mission, because obviously people are going to want to use it for everything, and they're going to want to spam to be the top guys and all that. But I want to make sure that people know that r-New World Companies exist. It is a location in which you can spam your company invites, and tell people, make the case for what your company has to offer. If you guys are joining the channel for the first time now, we also run a company out of the NWO Discord called the Ninth Legion. We are not the New World Order company that exists out there who doesn't seem to know that their name's already taken by something else, but it's a whole different story.
We can understand, like, them maybe not sort of noticing, like, it's there's a lot of companies, a lot of various different kind of organizations and groups out there that are making content this and the other. So, like, yeah, we get it. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
But
And
yeah,
it's
like, we're not associated with each other.
Yeah. Now, and of course, that said, for anybody who's new to the channel, we do also have a massive collection of the art and concept art that a lot of this stuff can't actually be seen anywhere else. It's not stored in many other places. Some of this stuff has been taken down. Some of the old video that we have is some of their original YouTube videos from the 2016 initial release of videos that they have since complained that we still have. But
they actually have.
Yes.
It's kind of funny about that. Like, wait, we got rid of those. No.
Yeah. Once it's on the internet, it's never gone. And I'm here to persistently remind them about that. Because there's a lot of the original stuff for the game, and I've been posting a couple of these, around, like, the concept art for the weapons, the concept art for, the different characters and things like that. those kind of things you can't get anywhere. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah, you'd think
the other
Amazon
thing-
would
the
know
other
how the
thing is
internet
it's
works.
good.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing is just it's also good to keep a historical record of like these sorts of things because like
Hmm.
it's worthwhile looking back at
Exactly.
every so often, right?
You know, and one of the big things there is actually like anytime being able to go into the fight for for mounts and being like, well, actually in 2016 they released concept art that already had mounts in the form of corrupted horses. Just saying, they're already they were thinking about it back then. So like those kind of things, like knowing that kind of thing exists, or knowing that there's a lot more than just the initial trailer. There's a lot of really in-depth stuff when it comes to the Romans, which we should be seeing relatively soon.
Yeah.
Crypto Racer, thanks for the follow, much appreciated. You guys can check out our new animations for our alerts. McLeod did a pretty awesome job getting those going.
They look pretty good. I'm quite happy about those.
Mm-hmm. Evil Containment, thank you for the follow. So from here, obviously, like there's the Reddit itself, which if anybody doesn't know what that is, it's r-new world game. The top bar looks very similar to this. Fundamentally, this is the one-stop shop that has the big news for the game. Aside from this, I would be remiss to say that if you really want to make sure the developers hear and see what you have to say, post it on the forums. Like, as much as I want them to come over to the Reddit, they also have a lot of effort that goes into those forums, and the backbone of those forums allows them to take sentiment analysis, which if anybody knows anything about AI and machine learning and stuff like that, do I moderate the forums? No, I moderate r-new world game, which is almost at the 90K mark, and I believe at launch we're expecting another 50 to 70,000, to almost double yet again in size. So it's going to be truly insane.
I mean, when the game launched, it went kind of gangbusters, right? Like you.
Oh god, yeah. Yeah, let me see if I can find the chart for this.
The chart was insane. Like it literally looked like a cliff face. It's ridiculous.
Here, we'll pop this over.
If you could find the one previously, like, oh yeah.
Yeah. So like this is like the craziness that happened for beta, because like this is basically the start of the beta, and then it bounces all the way up to where we are now. And then we become one of the most popular subscriber channels on Reddit, and then comments per day has calmed down a little, but
you can tell that big kind of hump is obviously the time as to when the closed beta was actually going on, so makes sense.
I turned Mac up as well. So some interesting things about this comments per day thing. For people that are looking for like, what does this actually mean? This is obviously the beta, so this is huge, crazy amounts per day, tons of activity. This spike right here was the announcement of the cash shop and the complete weekend of completely ignoring facts. And misinterpreting information. That's that. And then this entire bump over here, this, the only other distinguishable thing is actually this is the entire preview event. So like
really?
Yeah.
Jesus.
So that'll tell you, it really, posts per day, same kind of graph here. It really is, this is the entire preview here.
That is nuts.
Yeah.
Genuinely nuts.
So yeah. So basically, I wanted to bring this up because this is, obviously like one of the cool things out there is that the Reddit community is very strong. We are in the process of building it up. We are in the process of trying to clean up a lot of the toxicity. And there's a lot of really interesting things that, from a moderation perspective, you don't see unless you have a massive group of people. Um, for instance, I didn't know that you could be shadow banned on Reddit. That is new to me. And it's not something that a moderator can do. You have to actually have it been done by a Reddit admin.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people that have that happen. And it's really interesting because what it does is it allows them to continue to use Reddit as normal. However, all of their posts are automatically removed without their visibility of knowing they're removed, and nobody sees them unless the subreddits that they're on actually approves that message.
But they have to sit in a queue to be approved before they actually get put up.
So, and of course, like if they're super active, they just bombard our queue with random crap. But like, I think it's really kind of a weird way of doing it, but like a creative way of being like, don't just go create another account. We're gonna make it look like everything's normal.
So the only way that they can, the only way that they shouldn't, or they could kind of make this a little bit more interesting still, is if all the shadow banned accounts could see each other's shadow banned kind of posts and and comment and message about those. Because then it would be very much like GTA, right? Like where you have those hacker accounts kind of like ending up on the same servers as other hacking accounts.
Yeah. So it's just kind of a fun oddity that's come up that I think like a lot of people don't know that's a thing. I didn't know that was a thing. Some of the people in our audience might be shadow banned on Reddit and might not know it.
I'd heard about it. I definitely heard about it.
So let's talk about for one, the delay. So obviously we didn't actually put on a show to say, hey, the launch date's been delayed. I want to hit on that. The delay itself was a surprise. I think that it created an opportunity for them to kind of sit back, look at the actual large problems, and go, is there things that are actually going to take us a lot longer than we thought it would? I'm trying to find a very specific channel, and it's running away from me at the moment.
Okay. You have anything in specific?
Oh, there it is. So we got this notification from them that was basically,
yeah.
they need additional times and a few extra weeks to smash bugs, improve stability, and polish the game. This isn't new news. Anybody that played the beta, and I'm sure most of the people on the channel have, we all saw that there were some bugs, and I think most of the bugs that happened in the open world could have been resolved pretty quickly. I think that there wasn't a ton that would have caused a delay like this. I think that the issue that's coming up during wars specifically is probably the long burn issue that needs to be fixed and needs a high level of work done on it. And I honestly think that that's the reason for the delay.
Because when you think about it, like all the work that people put in terms of like the open world PvP in order to sway that kind of territorial influence to the point where you can have that 50 on 50, right? It basically cheapens all of that work if that 50 on 50 fight is kind of like just basically nullified because of broken servers or bad code, right?
Exactly. You don't want the fight over a city to be who managed to stay connected.
Yeah.
It needs to be about skill and stuff like that. And I mean, like this, on this channel, I streamed, I think, 3 to 5 different wars, and all but 2 of them we had major disconnect issues.
Well, you had that one that I recorded where like we almost dropped entirely, and you could see everybody like basically just lagging kind of like out, and like it was almost to the point where like everything started falling apart, and then it basically recovered itself, like kind of miraculously to some degree.
And some of the other things that that they ran into that really have never been an issue before, because if you consider the size of the alphas and stuff like that, you're not going to run into these massive queues to load in. Which I fundamentally think that they're going to need to add some sort of priority queue if you are in an event that is during that time. So like if you're reconnecting, you should have priority to get back in if you just disconnected. For an invasion or for a war, or if you're in the middle of a dungeon, you really should be able to get right back in if you're connecting within 5 or 10 minutes. Because that ended up being a little bit game breaking. And of course there was also the issue where the back end of the server wasn't communicating what was actually happening with territories, which led people to grind standing in those territories, despite the fact that they had already basically ticked over and an invasion was already going to happen.
I swear, dude, I swear some people thought that we had some kind of like, favors or something like that with the devs in some way, shape, or form, keeping First Light however long that we did. Like, well, I mean, we grabbed it and we never lost it as such, but like, we had it undermined a fair few times.
Yeah, and it's it was definitely a different. It was definitely different. It was definitely not something that was expected. Obviously we didn't have any favors thrown our way, but at the same time, like, if people wanted to throw that accusation out there, like, it would be justified, because we got saved by invasions, like, I think 4 times.
Hey, like, if anything, all I kind of see in that regard is like, clearly the Covenant is the light, and First Light is clearly our home, and if anything, that just shows that by divine provocation, like, First Light shall always be, and should always be, Covenant. Right?
It really is a nice little town. So the beta obviously had some issues. It had all kinds of problems. Was it really ready for launch? Could it have made it ready for launch? Probably. But I think this again speaks to Amazon's willingness to do this right. Let's take the added time, make sure that the launch is better.
Make sure the 50 on 50s work.
Exactly. In a game that eventually is going to be about, territory control and about, this meta game, type stuff, it's really going to be important for them to continue to continue to make sure that those fundamental game mechanics work.
Exactly. Like, and yeah, I do hark on about the 50 on 50s functioning, because getting so close to being able to take over a territory sucks when it gets taken away from you. But as we kind of talked about previously as well, it's making sure that the territories are sort of open to being taken, without invasions coming and just basically sweeping and nullifying it, like, is equally as important, because there's so much kind of so many sort of man hours kind of put in, collective man hours to kind of do those undermining all that work to undermine the territories. And if you nullify that, then you will have the reaction that you don't want from your community, which is, why bother doing this open world PvP stuff? There's clearly no point doing it because it keeps on getting undermined.
I really like this question from chat. Honestly, 50v50 running smoothly would be great, but it's such a small portion of the population gets to actually participate in it. I can't see why they won't, or why I can see why they won't prioritize it. So fundamentally speaking, the wars are kind of a keystone mechanic. They're there to, as kind of like an established end game type thing, and they're, even though it's a small amount of people, a lot of people are impacted by the result of those wars, and ensuring that they play out fairly and that they play out the way that they should. Will enable the proper factions to maintain or gain control appropriately when they win or lose, and that can have a lot of impact when it comes to building revenue for a company, or it can have a lot of impact for the overall faction in terms of taking key territories for fast travel.
And I do kind of see the sort of the question out there in the chat as to sort of like, are they planning to, or do you think that they would increase the sort of the scale of these fights, right? That's kind of a interesting and kind of difficult question to sort of to answer to some degree, because like obviously, a lot of people would love to see like larger fights, 100 versus 100, 200 versus 200 kind of thing, like that kind of thing. One of the sort of arguments for keeping a 50 on 50 is it prevents the situation of essentially having a dominance just by numbers.
Exactly. Yep.
The idea that it's a 50 on 50 means that ideally you should be able to have a company that has 50 players that can, or has at least 50 players that can push 50 people into that fight. And in that situation, it's it's more deterministic on proper leveraging of your defenses and the skill involved in fighting in a large kind of scale.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah.
So I think it's very interesting to see the different dynamics between factions and between companies. So within Covenant on Thule, we actually had kind of an arrangement where we, each of the different main companies were given a squad or two, so that we could bring our best guys to come help with the fight, or help with the defense, or help with the offense in any fight, and so that we could coordinate amongst our guys and have our top tier people there. But in some cases, companies only brought in their people. And that's entirely on them. Like if they want to do that, that's 100% on them. Like they can totally choose to do that. And it's interesting to see that like on different servers, everybody had kind of a different way of doing it. Some of them actually just randomly accepted people the entire time, just randomly filled it, which I think is a bold strategy for for kind of an Apex event like that.
That could potentially backfire. Like we didn't really see any sort of any sabotage style event situations occur. Like I'm not entirely certain how far you can go with sabotage kind of tactics.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Maybe the potential of that kind of gameplay either is there in some way, shape, or form, or could potentially be put into it. You never know.
Um, so, I think there was a lot of opportunity there. I think the mechanic itself really does need to be fixed as the priority. Even though it's such a small number of people that actually are invited into it. Um,
But
and
as you say, like
yeah.
the effects of the effects of it are felt by a lot more people.
hmm Now, and of course, those slots also get more and more important because winning or losing, you're getting a crate at the end,
Hmm.
and those crates do contain specific cosmetics that you cannot get elsewhere. You have to get them by doing wars, just like there's cosmetics specific to Outpost Rush, specific to each of the different expeditions, specific to each of the different factions, specific to all of the different areas have different very highly specialized things that can drop. Um, and I actually really like that that's the case. Yeah, I really hope that they keep the same names as the beta. I have a feeling that we're going to see probably 30% more servers because there's going to be a lot more people. Um,
Yeah.
you know,
Hey,
I
David.
would imagine it's going to be pretty crazy. Um, so obviously, that was the big news when it came to the beta. Um, it was a surprise to us and a surprise to many people that they didn't roll into an open beta. Um, they
Yeah, I
still
was,
have
I was,
time, but
I
yeah,
was totally expecting it, but like,
yeah. We
you never
we
know.
we
I guess you never
anticipated
know.
it. We saw the tea leaves in the right way and all that, but I think their decision to delay changed the plans, and I think that they were in a position where it hadn't been announced anyways, so you know it's not a large concern. Um, but I think that they might have an opportunity to be like, hey, we might open up for a week to do a closed beta, um, or they might just roll straight into launch. You know, they might have that level of confidence in the fixes. But
I hope so.
yeah,
Either way, like it, I mean, it, I, I kind of have it in my mind that like it doesn't hurt to sort of at least try something out
hmm
initially, like, to make sure that things are actually working properly.
yeah. So that's going to be kind of a crazy. Like launch day itself is actually going to be insane. It's going to be very similar to the highest end days where it was super long queues until they figure out exactly how many servers they need. Tons of people trying to go to, this was the unofficial PvP server, and it's like, no, they're all PvP servers. Like,
Yeah,
it's stuff like that is going to cause a lot of pain, and people trying to make the official servers by language isn't going to happen. Like, anybody who thinks that's ever going to happen is just delusional. Um, you know, because it never survives first contact with the server. Um, and yeah,
I mean, when it comes to the launch day, the first launch week kind of thing, it is going to be one of those things where
oh,
every single server is going to be a high pop slash full pop. Thank you very much,
thank you,
Catherine.
Catherine. I appreciate that. 2,000 bits, much
Yeah,
appreciated.
very nice. So yeah, like the servers are going to be basically pretty much all high pops. I'm I think it's a pretty safe bet, right?
Oh
At
god,
this
yeah,
point in time,
yeah,
like they're gonna be full pops. It's just gonna be a case of how long you're gonna be waiting in the queue. Um, yeah. So
yeah. Yeah, people are saying that Thule was supposed to be the RP server, and it was like, I didn't see any of that going on.
not so
uh,
much.
And I mean, again, when you've got depending on the server, you've got an 8-hour queue to get in. You know, it is what it is. Like, the people, you've got, in some cases, 15,000 people trying to shoehorn onto the same server. Not all of them are on board with this unofficial, server that's X thing. You know, they're just trying to find a server and trying to play with friends. And as McLeod and I know, we come from a group in Eve that, in certain instances, we could fill an entire server, or multiple,
Yeah.
like, with
See, I
just
thought you were going
us.
to go I thought you were going to go the RP kind of direction because, like, I mean, although we don't RP in Eve, to some degree, people have lambasted us as being a certain way, and so we've kind of just decided, you know what, if you're gonna claim that we're terrible people, then we might as well just live up to that. So
The thing is, so and I'm gonna deviate away for a little bit to talk about this, because, like, Goon Swarm in the Imperium has this reputation for being the bad guy, and they lean into it. And it's because
they do.
it's for an RP reason, and it's because playing the bad guy gets everyone else really ticked at you.
Plus, it's so much more interesting, right? Like,
yes.
that's the thing. Like, bad guys are always so much more developed as characters in like stories and that kind of thing, right? At least the decent ones, right? If you have a terrible bad guy, the whole plot, the whole kind of storyline, is terrible, right? So
now, that said, I do also want to pat the Imperium on the back. After a 13-month-long war against the majority of the game, the Imperium came out ahead as the Pappy Coalition fell apart in EVE Online. So, sorry for diving away from New World. We're coming right back to it, but I did want to say, hey, that happened. Victory in Delve is officially a thing, and Fortress Delve is being rebuilt.
Delve being a region in the game, basically.
Yeah. So back to New World. Had to hit on that. I haven't played Eve in quite a while, but my money in Eve is still very active. So I wanted to at least hit on that. So the other thing that we wanted to talk about today is some of the resources that people have been making. We wanted to show people that these exist, and we want to give credit to the people who made them.
Yes, these are so good.
So
you're cropping this a little bit, though.
Am I? Let me.
Yeah, just control minus.
Yep. Let me.
While he fixes his shit.
Don't mind me. Just
just sorting your stuff out. Yeah, like these like, I mean, they're basically infographics. They're infographics / cheat sheets. Like, whichever name you wanna use to sort of describe them, but essentially they are a lot of information put in a very sort of condensed kind of way, but structured in a manner that should at least be understandable and logical.
Exactly.
And they're great. They genuinely, a lot of these are really, really useful.
Exactly. And this is really going to help understand, like, is it worth going from a flint pickaxe to an iron pickaxe? Is it worth going, between the different tiers of things? Is it worth using the food? Understanding why that food is important. The mining potions, the trophies, and things like that. Like, what does what look like?
I'm sure there's lots of things that like affect. I mean, you see how like there's a variety of different things that affect, like, just mining, for example, right? I'm sure there's probably a lot of people who probably either watching this live or we watching the VOD of this at some point. They'll realize, like, just in terms of mining, that there are so many different things that affect mining in some way, shape, or form. Like, I'm sure there's lots of people who are mining who didn't even realize that they were like mining potions and mining trophies, for example.
And on top of that, things that they've got on here to consider. Strength. Strength gives you additional mining speed. It gives you a variety of different bonuses. You also have the opportunity of the mining trophies, which are going to increase your luck over time. Could you check the links for these in the chat? I'll do you one better. All of these are stored in community resources on the Discord.
And this one that we're specifically looking at, the mining kind of cheat sheet, right? This one was by a Reddit user named Matsume1, right?
Yep.
So fucking well made. Made, Matsume.
So all of the ones that we're going to be talking about today, and a few more, are in community resources. They are.
I mean, they're probably both in 9th resources and community resources.
Yeah, they're probably in 9th as well. But if in the show info and announcements, it should be the 4th one down, right under the show live and show server tech stuff. But that's basically where we're going to be pushing, anything that we find substantial value in, or that gets scraped from the Reddit as substantial value. We're going to be trying to put in there so that we can spread it to as many people as possible. One thing that I'm actually really happy to talk about as well is our Discord is closing in on 800 members.
Ooh, nice.
Which is insane. So I'm happy that we're continuing to grow and that we're being utilized as that source of information. Thank you for the follows, by the way.
There was a time when our Twitch channel had close to 800 followers, and now we're over 1,000. So
yes,
I can very much imagine that in the not too distant future we'll probably have a Discord that has over 1,000 members as well.
Mm-hmm.
We should probably do something cool to celebrate that at some point.
Oh yeah. There will be, for people that don't know, there's some channels that you may or may not be able to see, in especially the show info and announcements that haven't been used yet, that might hint at some of the stuff that we've got planned. For instance, the giveaway channel that hasn't been used yet.
Mm-hmm.
So that's very much a thing. Keep eyes out for that. We are planning to do some kinds of giveaways, especially for the launch. And we haven't announced what exactly those are going to be yet, mainly because we want to see exactly how certain things play out. Specifically, some of the prices around the premium currencies and stuff like that. But back to the different things.
Yes.
We also managed to find this little chart here that is amazing in every way. So if you've been running around and you're collecting herbs and you're trying to get the different additional drops like basil, cinnamon, dill, garlic, ginger, they only drop in certain regions.
Yeah, and you've run around Everfall picking all the herbs all the time, and you've never gotten mint, for example. There's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm. You have to go other places to get them, and this is something that this is something that was argued for a long time, that not every region should have everything. You should have to go around the map. You should have to travel, or you should have to coordinate trade from those areas that don't have those things. So for instance, if you want to hang out in Brightwood and collect all the basil, paprika, saffron, sage, and tarragon, then great. You can bring it to places that don't have it and sell it there, because people are going to be looking for it. And some of them who don't know that charts like this exist and don't know that the drop tables are,
what's interesting is and I hate to sort of push us back to sort of something that's not New World, but I'm kind of getting into sort of marketing kind of based stuff in Eve, and the way that my group is kind of running things where we're now kind of situated is very much similar to how Goons were running their stuff, in defense of their territory, back months and months and months. But it's really interesting how we're developing a new sort of local kind of economy, very much in the same way that you would do so in New World, right?
Mhm.
You have your own kind of like your own territory, your own sort of settlements, and it's kind of really interesting how actually profitable it is to go to another settlement which you might have good relations with, and then just basically purchase things or get things via dealing with people directly, socially, in order to get like material and then bringing it back and putting it on the market over in your territory. Like, surprising how much money you can make out of that.
Mhm. And you can actually make a lot of money selling really basic stuff. Like, a perfect example of this is selling just basic rawhide. Because it's a town board thing, you're still going to need it.
Mm-hmm.
And it actually sells out pretty quickly if people aren't restocking it on the market. Which, if you were in the game the last like 2 or 3 days of the beta, you really started to feel that, hey, there's not very many people putting stuff onto the market anymore. And there was a large gap, and people were paying some pretty absurd pricing for just a couple units to finish off something they were working on.
Yeah, and I would like to say that, like, you know, having these kind of just these differences, in different regions and stuff, does promote being able to move stuff around, and people would rightly kind of so think that maybe fast travel might be a little bit broken in terms of being able to like move stuff like almost instantly around various different places. But you have to understand that, like, there is an inherent additional cost to all of your fast travel if your bag is like full of shit,
Mm-hmm.
right? It can ramp up quite a bit, especially if you don't have any of those bonuses from the territories, right? Not from the territories, um from the forts in those territories, which can be taken by other people. So
Yeah. And it
um
is easily enough to farm back as off.
yeah, that's true.
I personally think that they did go a little bit heavy on the fast travel, but I also think that that's because they don't have mounts yet. Um, and I think that on the launch of mounts, we'll probably see um, them tone back on fast travel. Um, in terms of pricing, it'll probably make it pretty prohibitive to do it as a rapid thing. Um,
Mm.
I've always been more of a fan of keep people in the world, keep them traveling past each other. Um,
Yeah.
I think that there's a good and a bad way to do mounts, and I don't think that I think that they know better than to do flying mounts, and they know better than to do like just truly absurd stuff with them. Um, but
Like,
yeah.
allow the opportunity for people to interact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is something that fast travel doesn't really allow you to do. But, like, that requirement shouldn't be so asinine to be to be grating to people, like, traveling from one place to the other.
So, did New World release information concerning mounts? So, Sir Medieval was able to get an interview with them, where they were openly discussing mounts, and kind of the
Hmm.
general consensus from that was that in lieu of shoehorning in a basic system, which nobody really wants, people want a system that makes sense, that's a little bit more complex, that provides something different. Um, they their idea is basically hold off so that we can develop something that is actually significant, and not something that's just drop in and eh. Hey, thanks for the follow. Um, so there's a lot of things like that that we do follow, like all of their communications when it comes to stuff like that, because it's obviously mounts is a pretty intense topic, and like there's violent opposition in both directions. So, uh, And I can tell you
I think
that
that I think
that specific thread has been on the forums since the inception of the game.
I think the
Uh,
thing is something like mounts. You can. It's such a sizable kind of it's such a sizable addition to the game that can affect so many different things that I think it's understandable both for a pro and a con kind of like argumentative basis that if you screw it up, you know, it can be terrible in both different directions, right? So understandably, you know, both arguments do have merits there because if you screw it up either way, either direction, like it can be really bad.
Oh yeah, and I actually like the sentiment in chat here. The reality is that it is going to come down to money, and frankly speaking, mounts equal more opportunity to sell skins.
It's kind of one of the reasons why we
yeah.
think it's definitely going to be coming. So at some point,
I honestly think that we're going to see 2 or 3 things happen with mounts. This has been my prediction for a while. We're going to see variety of different breeds. We're going to see a variety of different skins. I think we're going to see a variety of different armor levels. Based on the animations that we saw during the preview last year.
We're going to get entirely different animals. Like,
yeah, we could.
Like bears?
We could. So we could easily see variety of different mounts and things like that from that are all killable, because that was one of the main things that we saw in the data in the files that were in there. Now, given those are older files, so they're also were not found in the beta, which maybe tells us that either A, they were removed, or B, they're hidden.
It was either they're removed or they've realized that from last time maybe they shouldn't think that they've hidden things when they definitely haven't, right?
So that's a huge aspect of things. We kind of dived away from this, but like we're basically what we're doing is we're utilizing each of these different resources, and then we're going to riff off that because there's a lot of topics here that are kind of interconnected, and so like when we go down a tangent like this, we enjoy the tangent, but I do want to bring us back to the
let's get back on the road. Let's
Yep.
let's get back on the road and not like into the grass, right?
So user Hatberg on Reddit provided this, which actually I really like. Fundamentally, what it does is it shows you
It's a color chart.
colors based on what you have to actually go get. So, there are certain ones that are in the cash shop that are faction rewards, and then there's a lot of other ones. So, what's interesting here is that this one actually has 2 that you can make with red and brown, but there's a lot of open spaces here. So there's a lot of color combinations that they could add in that they haven't yet, and I think that that's an interesting way to go about it. So yeah. So
it definitely shows the amount of variety that are still left to be able to for them to implement. So
absolutely. Now, if I was going to make this, I would have made this a little bit differently, where I would have put the region under where you can collect the specific color, because I think that would have added a little bit more value to this. But I think that this in itself is actually quite useful because I love
how green and green doesn't make green, it makes avocado.
Yeah, there's some interesting color math going on here. That's for sure.
Anyway, no, it was just one of those things where I was like, there's nothing really in the red, orange, yellow, but there was one in green. I was like, that's really strange. Anyway, sorry, tangent.
Yes.
Back on topic.
A user named Studi, who's also got a YouTube channel, a Twitch channel, and a Twitter, posted this to Reddit as well, which basically is what each of the weapons' main abilities do.
And this is very interesting. Oh yeah, no, sorry, my bad. I was thinking something else.
So each of these are the main abilities, and functionally speaking, what they do. So this is kind of a good resource to see what all of those are. I'm not going to go in depth on each one of these, but I think that something like this is reasonable to look at, and it's really quite useful. So I appreciate this coming out. The other day, this came out, and one of the things that McLeod and I have talked about a lot is whenever we bring stuff up, we want to make sure that we're crediting the people that actually made it, because functionally speaking, if we didn't make something, we shouldn't be taking credit for it. But what we do want to do is we want to make sure that people know it's out there and that resource is available, and give credit where credit's due. So a user Perform71 launched these, and of course it comes up as a tiny these info cards for each of the different attributes and what they do, as well as considerations for each of the damage types, each of the gems, each of the food types as well. So there's a lot of kind of interesting variation there. What the attribute thresholds actually get you, so it's all in one quick place to get it. The primary scaling, secondary scaling, what type of damage it's actually doing, the debuffs or the buffs available, and the debuffs available.
I think one of the most interesting things in actual fact is the attribute armor sort of strength and what the suffixes are and what they, what their strength kind of things are. That's actually really useful, because that isn't actually explained too much, or it's kind of like it's a little bit difficult to kind of to see in there, sort of thing.
Oh yeah. So like armor of the soldier is pure strength, and anytime you run into these, it's going to be a primary and a secondary, or in the one instance here, the pure strength. And they went through and made this for each of the 5 things. So we had strength, there's dexterity, intelligence, and even here they've got a cool thing about focus and intelligence synergy. Focus attributes synergize well with intelligence weapons by providing the following bonuses for each focus point: 2% mana regen and 0.5% cooldown reduction. So there's a lot of really, really good information in these that I really think people should have at their fingertips. And there's a reason that we've kept this in our servers so that people can rapidly get it. It's in that community resources channel on Discord, which I'll quick throw the link out there for that again. Helps if I spell Discord right. There we go. So those are all kind of important things to know. There's obviously, when it comes to, Constitution, they actually started talking about the taunting gems, and utilizing these in the weapons, which are actually really important. What's interesting is they don't talk about, or they pseudo talk about them, but they don't really talk about their use when it comes to like dex and intelligence. You could actually be using these, they mentioned it here on the armor side of things, that you can generate less threat by having the correct resources, or the correct gems, these carnelian gems, so that even though you would normally generate more threat than the rest of your team combined, because you're dealing mass AoE damage, or like your glass tank, or glass cannon, you're going to be able to keep them off of you and keep the threat on somebody who's Constitution focused. where they're going to have 300% more threat generation and a lot of health to make sure that they can take that beating.
Yeah, and like that may not seem as though that is too much of an issue when it comes to sort of like the low level dungeons. When you get to the high level dungeons, it really becomes like very important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I believe that some of these are. Oh, here it is. Talking about what these gems do when they're put in weapons, what they do when they're put in armor, and at what levels they do what percentages at. Things like this, in all honesty, are incredibly valuable. Like knowing your options when it comes to gems is actually really, really, really important. Especially if you're going into like late game level 65 dungeons, keeping in mind that the highest player level is level 60. So if you're going against level 65 golds, you're going to have a really rough time if you're not tanked correctly against them. So, if your enemy is doing slash damage against you, you want to have slash damage absorption.
The other really important thing about this is like, it's great knowing like what they do, but the where this comes into its own is the fact that it gives you kind of the numbers as to quite how much in certain formulations, right?
Oh yeah.
How much damage absorption, how much damage is converted to various different things, sort of how much threat generation or like threat is mitigated, like in comparison to like various different things, right? So it is extremely useful when it comes to when it comes to planning out what you want to do, and whether it's going to work well.
And Mala actually brings up a good thing to note here is that carnelian gems apparently reduce your threat generation if they're put into a bow or musket.
Yeah.
So that's actually quite valuable.
And I understand out there Chaos's Reigning is talking about, like, we're pointing people to resources to understand, the intricacies of mechanics in this game. It's entirely up to you as to whether you want to go and really utilize these resources. Like, you can decide for yourself that you're not going to, and you want to play the game, how you want to play it, and discover those things yourself. That's totally cool. That's totally fine. But the idea is we're giving people the option to be able to, understand this game a little bit better, without having to spend tons and tons of hours, because sometimes people don't have, that amount of hours, in their sort of free time to be able to do these things. So, makes common sense.
Yeah. So one of the challenges with stuff like this is that oftentimes there's a lot of like really arcane knowledge that you really can only get from another player. Like there's some kind of the touchstone stuff, which like a lot of this information, when it comes to what gems do what, is available. All you got to do is hover over the items in game. But being able to look over and be like, what do I actually need on my armor, and what gem, like if I'm like, oh, I wanna have my weapon scale off focus. Okay, that's an amber gem. So like there's those kind of things where it becomes useful for just not making you search for it as much, and that's what most of these are. There's a lot of like really arcane knowledge when it comes to wars and PvP that most people don't know. Like even people who made it to level 60 in the beta, there are people who don't know that if you are looking to regen health quickly, all you have to do is drop a camp and rest. And you'll like Asmongold literally made it to level 60 and was like, this is the first I've ever seen this. And it was like,
because it was watching Just Strife his video, and like literally of his like quick review of New World, and it was just really funny because he he was like, "That's the first I knew about this. What the hell?" It's so
Yeah,
funny.
and I mean, there's a lot of stuff like that. There's, in terms of like meta for wars, people
Yeah,
who watched this channel for the beta saw me absolutely destroy people in a repeater turret. You know, just because they didn't have any health. And then like you'd see the people that had the Constitution builds that could actually take a shot, versus if they had no Constitution, 2 shots and they're dead. So like there's some like meta to be played there. There's also meta, like super arcane knowledge about weapon and damage mitigation, as well as weapon and damage mitigation not scaling from turrets. So, a level 60 character who's going against level 20s is actually more useful in a repeater than they are fighting on the ground against a level 20 in a ton of instances. And then there's metas around the explosive cannons and stuff like that. Like if you're fighting a proper war is a whole different story. But
Marla kind of like brings up a bit of a point actually that it did kind of irk me a little bit when I was playing the beta, was trying to find the quests that kind of upgrade your camp was actually kind of annoyingly awkward and difficult to find.
mm-hmm.
One of the things that I would love to see, if by chance like somebody from Amazon Games is like watching this, like if when you went to the the bonuses that you get from your leveling, when you go to that particular section of the menu of the UI, for the particular camps, if you clicked on it and kind of like locate the, if there was like a button saying locate this quest, and it just like brought up the map and showed you, like zoom straight into the where you get the quest from, that would be amazing, because like a lot of times that was really difficult to find.
Exactly. Like it should come up as like a special pin, because that's kind of an important thing to have. Like another bit of like super arcane knowledge is that you can craft food of up to T5 meals at your camp. So like you could be a level 60, there could be no T5 cooking anywhere, and you could still make T5 stuff off of your camp. So like you could max out camping without T5 ever being an option, and that's why most places never leveled their kitchens, because they're just not that valuable and people should be leveling their camps. But it happens, and people would spend money on it. Now the other thing is, of course, they want the tax revenue from it in some cases, and eventually it becomes the one thing that you really just need to do.
One of the other things is I think with knowing that kind of knowledge, I like knowing that that aspect of being able to make T5 cooking or make T5 kind of food at your camp. Like there should definitely be a good reason to have T5 cooking stations inside of settlements. I think that kind of is. It's just it wasn't really leveraged that much in any way, shape, or form.
Oh yeah. So yeah, there's stuff like that like most people don't know. You can't make the stat or skill buff food at the higher tiers from the camps, but you can still level your cooking, which is actually worth a lot of XP. Like, not just the XP towards the level 200 cooking, but it's substantial amount of XP towards your actual character. And for not a lot of added effort either. So, because you're also getting your harvesting skills and stuff like that in the process. So, those are some of the things that like it doesn't teach you in the game, and it doesn't, these kind of resources don't teach you those things. but you also wouldn't learn that unless you joined a group that knows what they're doing. Which, depending on the group, they might have a couple people who do know what they're doing. Depending on the group, they might have nobody who knows what they're doing. They might just be coming over from a different game, and it's their first time, and 6 months into this, you're gonna have people who leveled the hard way and think that that's the only way to do it. And then there's gonna be people like me who are level 60 in the first 2 weeks, because I'm not doing it the hard way. Made too many characters over the last 3 years to do it the hard way anymore. Yeah. So.
Right.
So moving along, there's also some other resources. So one of the ones that I want to bring up is the Tradesman Bible. I think that this is a substantial value here because it shows off many options. So we're going to go into Arcana here, and it's going to talk about it's an Excel sheet. Simply put, if you're into Excel, EVE Online type Excel workbooks and stuff like that, make a copy of one of these. You'll enjoy it. This also accounts for like experience per resource and what actually is the most value. For people that are just joining in our Discord, we have the links for all of these in a channel called Community Resources. It should be under the info and announcements section. So, fundamentally, we've got all of this. All of these things are available there. We will keep them up permanently, and we'll add to this list to have even more stuff on there. But I wanted to make sure that people saw this and could easily identify as I break it. Easily identify that these resources exist if they really want to use them. There's also things like this where it's telling you certain enemy types have resistances and vulnerabilities. So for instance, if you're trying to hit ancients with fire damage, you deal way less damage. But if you hit them with lightning damage, you deal way more damage. So, if you're going against very high-level enemies, this makes a lot more sense to get the right equipment so that your lives are a little bit easier. This is exemplified in things like expeditions and stuff like that. It really becomes a substantial benefit to understand what type of damage you are applying, and what type of damage that your enemies are going to be vulnerable to. It will make your life a lot easier. Again, I want to thank all the people for hitting that follow button too. It really does help. I want to thank our subscribers and our Patreons and everyone who's just following and watching, because legit, you guys are the reason we do this show. Fundamentally speaking, we wouldn't do it without people watching, so there wouldn't be a purpose to do it. So with that, there's a couple of other larger resources that I want to talk about that I think are really important. So the first of these is newworldfans.com. I think that newworldfans.com is fundamentally one of the best sites out there for keeping up to date.
Yeah, a whole load of stuff.
Yeah, they have really collected a lot of really good stuff. They are the home to the Twitch bot that we use for scraping stuff onto our Discord and making sure that we're up to date on a lot of the announcements that they make. When they post a new dev blog, that bot pulls it off of the site, throws the link to the channel, or throws a link to that announcement automatically. So, if that's something you guys are interested in being aware of, keep those channels unmuted. You can, for all I care, you could mute everything and just not listen to what we say, and just hang out for those notifications. And I would be thrilled. Like,
Mhm.
if that's the value that you get, then our goal is to be of value. So that's one of the big things we've done with our Discord is make it useful. And these guys have really helped with this. And I actually want to give a specific shout out to the 3 individuals involved in this. Taken
So
has been kind of the head guy for New World fans for a long time, and they've paired up with Redbird and BDLG for because they run Studio Loot and they're awesome people. So if you guys are looking for other content, I would totally recommend any of these people. They're really great at what they do, and obviously they've been around in the community long enough to know what's what. Which honestly I think that's one of the biggest problems that we have right now. Is that there are a lot of people, a lot of new creators, which is great. But there's also a lot of new creators that don't have a lot of playtime.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And they just don't know what they don't know. Which I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but over time they'll gain the skills and abilities and all that. But take people's opinions with a grain of salt for the first probably month, especially if they don't outwardly say they're an alpha player. Yeah. Because there's and the other thing is there's a difference between an alpha player and an alpha player who's played in like every friggin' alpha since the game started them, and some before. Yeah, I don't want to hit on that too hard. So, anyways, fundamentally speaking, these guys have a great site. They've got a lot of great resources on here. They've got a database of all of the different gear drops, all of the different crafting type stuff, a calculator for the crafting. They've got the definitive New World guide on here, beginner's guides, expeditions, lore, PvP modes, guides to everything, different builds.
All sorts of different things. Like
Mhm.
they've created a wealth of resources for you and for understanding the game. Like they have deep dives into various different aspects of the lore in the game, which is like fantastic. If you're one that's kind of sort of interested in sort of the the intricacies of the world building when it comes to New World. So
Absolutely.
it's really kind of cool stuff.
Absolutely.
Cannot recommend them highly enough.
Mm-hmm. And of course, they also have the ability to, post your company up and have that as a resource.
They do shout outs actually on their weekly kind of is it weekly or bi-weekly?
I think their show is weekly.
But they obviously have sort of an area where they list all the various different companies, but they also do shout outs on each of their episodes. They choose a company to shout out basically for, which is really fantastic.
And I believe so they're using newworldmap.com is what it links to, which this enables you to take a lot of the mystery out of things. So
really good map.
Let me hide all. Let's say I really am trying to find iron. And that is most iron nodes. There may be some additional to this. Having been in First Light, I think that this is pretty spot on actually. And these are actually all up on the mountain.
Yep.
So, A's, having moderated so many large forums and done so for so long with New World, will you ever get a chance to be a CM for the game, do you think? So, I have to be careful with how I say this, because I both highly respect the community management team at Amazon Games, and I don't want to hurt their feelings. If they ever offered me something like a part-time gig that I could do in my spare time, then I would consider that. But unfortunately, I am a rather senior individual with the agency that I work for. And in order to move to a community management role in a full-time capacity, I would take almost a $60,000 to $70,000 pay cut.
Yeah.
So it's not that I don't think that it's a valuable career. It's not that I don't think that it's a great thing to do, and it's obviously something that I've got a passion in, because I would love to do it, but at the same time, unfortunately, if they wanted to bring me over, they'd have to bring me over as like a senior game dev, and that like I would be like a senior producer over there.
Yeah, so... I think in that kind of perspective, you'd be lacking in some certain skills there. Even though that, even though that in the sector that you're at, like you command the level of income that you do, understandably.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I mean, the other side of this is, we do, like I've got a great relationship with many of the devs. I can name several of them. Like this is turning into like me being, but like basically I've got communication paths with them that, like, if I wanted to talk to somebody about something specific, I know roughly who's on what team, to a certain point that I'm sure that there are people at AGS who are like, how does this guy know what he knows? Because there's been a number of times where I'll like bring something up casually in a conversation with one of them, and they'll be like, how do you know that? Lore Seeker Cast, I recognize that one. Good to see you. So fundamentally, I do communicate with them. We do provide them with some really cool stuff to make sure that they see the big stuff that happens. Especially when it comes to the Reddit, because there's a lot of signal noise that goes on the Reddit. But yeah, is Steam the only way to play? Yes. You have to, the only way to actually download the game is through Steam.
Yep.
And that is fundamentally, there is no standalone launcher or anything. They used to in the past. But hey, that's what we do. We're all about getting people information.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I can riff right off of certain things. Like I honest to God enjoy the Q&A type thing. Like if you guys have questions, like that's what we do. Like that's what we love doing. We love giving people information. So but anyways, we're also going to keep rolling through these.
Yeah.
I also wanted to bring up New World Pacifist, which is one of the other people who happens to be in the room here, is Malazetic's project, which goes through how to make a completely pacifist character. Could you buy it on Epic? No, it's only on Steam.
To be fair, I think he saw a gap in the market in terms of like creating content for New World, and was like, hey, nobody's doing this content. I'll do it. Fair enough.
I think I missed a question. Is there a screenshot anywhere of what the company names look like? I don't think we have one of those, actually. I don't think I've got a copy of the screenshot page. He's also totally remaking the website before the launch. Go figure. But here's what it currently looks like, in case anybody wants to snap a picture. And so I always like giving a shout out to this, because this is a cool kind of like, this is a cool way of playing the game. There are so many different options of how to get to level 60. Playing the game to its completion, to level 60, without doing any PvP and any killing of NPCs
I
is
mean, that is fairly difficult. Like,
yeah,
I'm not gonna lie.
that changes things. Um, that's an interesting way to do it, and I always want to give that a shout out. So those are the resources that we have up. Are that that we've been trying to share for a while, or that we've had up in the channel and the Discord. Again, I really stress, you guys don't have to chat with us in the Discord if you don't want to. We're generally in there all of the time. We love chatting with people. But if you just want to use it as a resource, feel free to just hang out in there. Like there's nothing stopping you from coming and going. You can mute the pings if you want. I'm not going to stop you. And it's great. It's great to have people. Additionally, we do run a company, the Ninth Legion, which is recruiting. So if you're interested in joining, all you got to do is make yourself known in the public chat, and we'll give you the role. We literally accept everyone because we're not, we're not picky. Like it's all about having fun and sharing the joy of the game.
I mean, I think maybe the only kind of way that we're going to be slightly picky is like if you have the right kind of mentality, right?
Yes.
If you're an absolute arsehole, chances are you probably won't be like around for too long. But like
Yes.
we're not going to be one of those people who are like, oh, you're going to have to do this, and this, and like super regimented. We're pretty easy. Oh god.
Mm-hmm. So when you join the Discord, there should be a channel that pops up that has you react to something, and that's how it validates it. The reason that we have those kind of protections on there as well is that fundamentally speaking, there's bots out there, and this is a good way of limiting them because they get stuck on that page.
Yeah. And rather malicious bots as well, right?
Yes.
So you want to like that, and that's also kind of like a good indication as to whether whether the particular Discord server that you're connecting to is actually has their shit together. If they have a validation page, then like you can be fairly certain that the person running it knows his stuff, it knows what's out there, and protects the community that they have inside.
Mm-hmm. So, now the other thing is we don't post things in the Discord that aren't checked over first. So like we're not going to give you a link to something that's gonna be bad. There's a variety of things that we do to make sure that we protect you guys. Of course, there's other like benefits of being on the Discord as well. Our subscribers and Patreons and server boosters all get their own titles, and there's kind of a thriving community on those areas as well as we run all of the Ninth Legion company stuff off of the same server. And we also keep track of things like tech news and basically bringing in things like Linus Tech Tips and those kind of videos as they launch, so that we can be sure that people have a reason to hang out and have topics to talk about when there isn't anything else going on. So our company's focus is basically a little bit of everything. I'm not the type of person to tell you how you should play the game. I can give you suggestions on if you want to like min-max and like just make it to the end game as fast as possible, then I can give you suggestions on that, but I'm not going to enforce anybody do anything specific. And I find that the balanced approach of PvP, PvE, as kind of the PvX style, where like we've got people who don't do PvP, we've got people who I mean, it's really difficult to not do PvE. But we've got market types, we've got all that, and the reality is it takes a village. Like you want to build a company that's balanced, because you can get allies to fill in on the PvP front. And there's some people that want nothing but PvP, and you need those people because you also need to be able to hold your territories and all that. So. Yeah, we're aiming for the Thule server on launch, so hopefully we can be in the same spot. It'd be a good time.
So it's gonna be crazy again.
Yep, that's the one. Given it's probably going to be insane because it was a pretty popular server for the beta.
So Sickness is wondering what faction we're going to be. I know that I've hinted to A's like, oh, you want to do something slightly different kind of thing, and like A's is pretty adamant like that with being Covenant. So.
Yeah. So I also don't stream with a delay. So I fundamentally I read your guys' comments and yeah. We had a really cool opportunity at the beginning of the beta to stream to about 200 plus as like a massive Q&A. And I think we were 270 was where we topped out on the one stream. So like I'm used to seeing it and that. Are the skins going to be tradable like CS:GO skins? I don't think so. They haven't really ironed that out, but I don't think they will be. They'll probably be bound to the specific character that they're being used on, or account bound.
Kind of one of the reasons to not have that happening is because it starts to generate like, its own independent like economy outside of the game, with whichever sort of like platform that you're using to be able to sort of like transfer those things in, right? Like, so for example, if it's, for example, the game is kind of released and platformed kind of on Steam, you would expect it to potentially use the Steam Marketplace. And the Steam Marketplace has been used to generate like a sort of some underground and some sort of like black marketplaces, some kind of dodgy marketplaces to some degree, and also generate some fairly dodgy websites as well. In terms of being able to like gamble stuff away. And I'm not saying that gambling is dodgy in and of itself, but inherently the people who run those start to end up becoming quite dodgy after a while.
The house always wins.
Exactly.
It's not gambling for the house. The house always wins.
And when it's not regulated, which a lot of those things weren't in any way, shape, or form, you're basically playing with smoke and mirrors, and they're telling you that you have X number, the odds are this, when in actual fact you have absolutely no idea as to whether they're actually telling you the truth, which invariably they aren't. So it's one of those things where if you can just kind of cut that whole kind of thing out of the game, then it's you inherently avoid the headache that comes along with it.
Yeah, it really wouldn't surprise me if they basically just made it on purchase soul bound, because it really does lead to a lot of problems that are just easier to just completely avoid.
CS:GO Lotto was a classic example.
That said, because it is based on Steam, there are some other challenges as well when it comes to like I'm not advocating for this in any way, but because of course this is against Steam's EULA, but you can sell Twitch accounts. There's those kind of issues as well, that becomes something that they can't really block. Steam will do their best to not allow that to happen, but I honestly think that when they do this, the skins specifically will be soul bound and tied to the user, similar to something like what would it be? Like Apex Legends. Where
Oh,
when
right.
you get a skin there, it's tied to you permanently. You can't trade it to anybody. Like, um, or like League of Legends, you can't really trade. That's not a great example because there are examples, or there are times when you can trade them, but um, yeah. Um,
The
so yeah,
exception that proves the rule.
yep. Um,
But like at the end of the day, like to some degree, you can't stop people from trading what they want to trade. Like you mentioned,
yeah,
like you have to admit some level of defeat to some degree. You know, um, all you can kind of do is stop it being easy. Just at least raise the bar high enough that it has to be particularly awkward for people. Otherwise it'll run riot, like run uh entirely through the game, and that's not good.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, the other side of that, like even making it really awkward, you still end up like a great example of this is Star Citizen, where they make it incredibly awkward to trade ship upgrades and stuff like that. Um, Alas, people have found creative ways of doing it.
But that's what I
And
said. Like you're never gonna get rid of it entirely, but like
yeah,
just making sure the bar is high enough that it's not like ubiquitous with the game. Like then you're good.
so now the other thing is, McLeod and I have actually taken the opportunity to play Star Citizen recently.
I've always
And
I've always termed it scam citizen, by the way, just so
yeah,
everybody knows. Like,
but like we got the opportunity to join a company in Star Citizen and start playing with the big ships, and it really is. So like
some cool shit there.
I
There
backed
is
it
some cool shit
in
there.
2016, so it's been a while, but being able to watch it over time, it really is growing into something, and it could become something. It could,
I mean,
if the vision
it's developed.
becomes what they're aiming for, then it's going to be one of the biggest MMOs ever launched.
So I also wanted to sort of like get some real talk here when it comes to MMOs, right? Because a lot of people kind of complain about Star Citizen being just this, as Sigma says, like the endless development game, right? Like, name an MMO that isn't constantly in development. I mean, yes, you get those situations where an MMO is actually released, like it comes out of out of beta and becomes a full release, right? But that MMO is still developed and redeveloped and redeveloped and redeveloped, right? So really, is Star Citizen in development anything different to any other MMO in development?
And it's going to take its
You know,
time too, because one, they don't have a massive team, which some people would be like, well, they've got all this money, and it's like, so does New World, but it's not a massive game. It could be much larger. Um, but I think that I think there's a lot of opportunity in Star Citizen, but you know, um, but yeah, like we got the opportunity to play it. I've actually recently put more money into it because of the experiences that I had in the last couple of months about um, you know fundamentally I can see, based on what I can see now and what I can experience now, I can see the vision for the game, and I can see where they're going with a lot of the back-end systems that they're developing. And I frankly trust them more than some developers that I have a longer relationship with. For instance, CCP Games, I don't trust further than I can throw them. And they're Icelandic, so you can't throw them very far. Otherwise, they fall off their island. It's funny because their office used to be done by the water.
Sickness kind of wanted to get back to a question that he had about New World regarding tanks, and whether, a viable tank will literally just be a sword and board and that's it. Like, I've 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 had experience to some degree being a tank using kind of using almost sort of using the ice gauntlet to some degree. Like, in a strange way, it was a little bit more viable than other weapons for whatever reason. But like, you know, it's not as I would say it's not as viable as sword and board in any way, shape, or form. The issue with tank is really a case of being able to maintain or recover your stamina each time, right? Because you're constantly getting stamina hits, when you're obviously blocking and tanking.
And it's easier. It's easier to do with the sword and board than any others, but
yeah,
it's not impossible to do with the others. Like, you could easily tank with a great axe. You could easily tank with a hatchet. But you're losing the shield bonus for stability.
And that stability kind of like forces you to sort of have to drop your guard in order to recover tank at some point. Like, it's just a case of the sword and board. Like, you're gonna have to do that a lot less. However, I mean, I haven't looked specifically into this, but I can imagine, if you have a build that is able to recover stamina very quickly, you could potentially have a fairly decent tank, so long as you're able to recover that really fast, your stamina really fast, to be able to start blocking again very quickly. Trail. Hope that helps. I guess we're kind of like into the Q&A kind of side of the show at this particular point in time.
Yeah. And at this point, it's all Q&A. Whatever questions you guys have, we're game to answer, at least what we can within the bounds of the NDA.
Yep. I was gonna send you the if you wanted to play.
Can I stroke your beards? No.
Do you have an extremely long arm? Like
pineapple on pizza or not? Unpopular opinion. I'm for pineapple on pizza because sweet and salty is wonderful. I'm
cool with sweet and salty, like, but I'm not a massive fan of the pineapple on pizza kind of thing.
So here's the thing. It's got to be like it can't be just tossed on anything. It's got to be like a Canadian bacon and pineapple, or like I do sausage and pineapple, which is actually really good, in my opinion.
Well, I mean that's pork, so pork and pineapple does kind of work together. So
now that said, like, you can't throw it on like like a more like classic, like, it doesn't work well with pepperoni. Like, the flavors just don't mix. But yeah, kind of hardcore. I think you spelt something wrong in that sentence.
I mean,
I think you were aiming for PvP and autocorrected to something else.
Yeah, I mean.
And the answer is yes.
In the middle of a shoot, maybe not so much, but like, in general, if that's what they do, like in the off time, they definitely can play casual Dark Souls. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's nothing stopping them.
Why not?
There's a rule 34 for a reason. Like, if it exists, then it's just a matter of time.
Although to be fair, if they're hoping to carry on, like, making money from OnlyFans, they might kind of like, they might be getting screwed over a little bit in that regard. Like,
let's take a minute to talk about OnlyFans. This is the dumbest I've ever heard. Like, fundamentally speaking,
I've instigated this conversation now in two different streams now. I did it in Rampage Incorporated. I think yesterday, in actual fact.
They're only banning the extremely hardcore stuff? You mean like anything that's, I don't know exactly what they're banning, but like clearly they don't understand their audience. Because like there's only one purpose to have an OnlyFans account. I don't have
Pretty
one, by the
much.
way, but like there's only one purpose to have one. And yeah.
I don't know. Let's
Oh.
let's not forget that Linus Tech Tips had a OnlyFans account for a little while.
I just find it funny. I apologize for the bot. The bot is it has been and pretty much always will be a royal pain, but only
It was fine with hardcore, but like you actually put the P word in there, like it's gonna be like, nope.
yeah, the bot's a little inconsistent.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. But yeah, it amazes me that like one. I gotta be careful with how I say this because I've had old friends from like high school and stuff like that went into adult entertainment. And what I don't like about companies like OnlyFans is basically what they're doing is in order to build market share and build popularity, they dip into that market because, for anybody who knows anything about how how stuff like this works, like why we have Blu-ray instead of the HD DVD was purely because of porn. And that was the side that porn picked, therefore they won. But like basically what OnlyFans has done is utilized the sex worker market to make a lot of money, and now are trying to pull back from that in order to
clean up
clean
and
up
smarten their
and
image, right?
yeah, and it's like. Yeah,
For something they consider to be legitimate, as it were, right?
Yeah.
So
now, I'm not casting it in a positive or negative light as an industry. Like I'm gonna stay out of that conversation because I don't have an opinion on it, and I don't have the prerequisite knowledge and or want to make that a thing.
but by the way, Ace, I sent you some footage. Not related to the subject that we're talking about. And it was footage from the closed beta. Just as an FYI. That was the sort of Everfull fight that like almost crashed. Just in the PM. But yeah, it's just I don't know. I thought maybe in terms of interesting kind of stuff to watch. You see it?
Sorry, had to fire the cannons at the bot.
Right. Yes.
Yep. Don't like why? Like like here's the thing with this kind of thing. Like why sell follows? Like why do people buy follows? Like just like you're not gaining anything out of having a large follower count. Like I've seen perfect example of this. A Ron USMC from Twitch, or from EVE Online. He used to stream a lot of EVE Online. Unfortunately, he was on the side of the war that lost. Has a massive amount of followers. Streams to less people than we do.
Mm-hmm.
And we only have 1,020 follows.
Yeah.
Like
the thing, and that's the thing. It's
speaking,
kind of like
that number doesn't like. It might help legitimize the person as like, oh, they've been doing this a while, but.
And so a lot of his followers follow him because it's kind of like from sort of a rivalry kind of side of things when it comes to EVE Online. So when he's not playing something like EVE Online, they're just not interested in any way, shape, or form. And in very much in the same way, if you're buying followers Like those followers, yeah, fair enough. Like they show up on metrics to sort of help situations and stuff, but they're not talking in stream chat. They're not like adding to the or enriching the sort of like the content that you're creating like on the channel, and that's kind of really what you want, right?
Exactly.
And that's why that's why there's a kind of like it may seem like a subtle difference, but there's a big difference between us having followers that we actually really appreciate, and other other content creators who end up buying followers that don't, that may like look the same in terms of numbers, but like there's so much deeper kind of sort of value in actual legitimate followers than just statistics that you can buy.
Yeah. It's one of those things where, like, I just used him as an example because I know he's got a decent follower count, and I saw him streaming earlier today. It wasn't Eve, but it was like Sword and Blade or something like that, and he was only streaming for like 20 people, and it was
like Mountain Blade, and I think he was playing Elder Scrolls earlier on as well.
Yeah. So like it's one of those things where it's like, the only reason I'm talking about this is the bot. It's rare. It's actually very rare. It's very rare for us to ban anybody on this server. It's incredibly rare for us to moderate anything on our Discord server, because I think people know, like, I think they instinctively know, because like most people know that I'm also one of the Reddit mods, that like I don't take shit, like and like I think they like instinctively behave because of that, or like I could be wrong, but like maybe I'm just not as friendly as I think I am, but like I don't think they're doing it out of fear. I think they're just doing it out of like that's just not the tone that we set in the community. So, but yeah,
while you were banning that bot, I was just saying that I sent you a PM on Discord with that Everfall 50 on 50 where it almost crashed but didn't quite. I don't know if you wanted to put that up or not, but like just some background kind of stuff. Yeah, it was kind of it was an interesting moment, because the amount of particle effects as well that were going on was just insane.
I broke it. As we're gonna do this, we should do it in HD, right?
It would help. I did
300 pixels, best I can do.
I did encode it in H.265 actually.
So like here's the other thing. You could get like when it comes to like buying follows and buying views and like sub for sub or follow for follow type things, I like it's the worst way to do it. Like it in terms of like this is the second channel that I've grown to be an affiliate, and I know McLeod has at least TIS and TIS Push to Talk and your own channel is affiliated, right?
Yeah. Actually, no, I haven't. I haven't worked on my own channel for quite some time, so like I need to. I actually.
Oh, but it's still got that affiliate tag on it, though, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
I genuinely don't know. I should really sort that out.
But like, so here's the kicker. Like, the risk. You could have your channel's agreement torn up. Like, they could invalidate your entire revenue stream. They could invalidate your channel and just cut it, end it permanently. And that could be a thing. And it's one of those things where it's like I can't justify, like, internally, like, have I looked at it? Yes. Would I ever do it? No, because it, like, all it takes is for them, for Twitch to find out, and it's just stupid. Like, it gives you nothing as a benefit, and it only serves to hurt you. you know, and it's only ever going to come back and hurt you. And the only reason I'm talking about this is that the bot said this in the channel, and it's like that's a terrible way to do it. You know, if you're having struggles getting that 50 followers, you know, like it's a time thing. It's an amount of time, and it's also about streaming to an audience that you have some sort of niche in. And I'm gonna go full like stream doctor on people, and basically like fundamentally speaking, how I managed to get my first stream affiliated in 7 days. My first channel, my personal Commander A's channel. I streamed actively with no delay Titan ratting in Delve. 100% real-time gameplay, and yeah, I let Theta Squad know about it, had a sign ready and all that. Like, this was back when you had to sign on the ship, and all you had to do was be in squad or be in fleet and panic call for help, which
was
which
fairly easy to do.
yeah,
and effective.
and people would watch. 70 to 100 people would watch because it's easy. It's good, simple content. I'm going to use gaming trend videos video here in the background. This is actually Outpost Rush for anybody who hasn't seen it. I'm just going to use it as background.
Yeah, fair enough.
You know,
Yeah, just set it to loop.
So, and yeah, many of the people were going to be hunters, but like, the other thing is, there's maybe 15 to 20 people that stream in the Twitch category for Eve, and there's a ton of people that'll troll in there just to see, hey, a new player is starting up, let's go give them advice. Like, the community is actually really great for that. New World for the last year and a half has been wonderful for us. It's a niche community. Was small to the point where like we could build up over time, and as we grew, we gained followers naturally, and that's what you should aim for. Occasionally, you'll have like a catalyst moment where people are like, "Oh, hey, this is definitely the content that we want," and we want to make sure that that we have this person as somebody we follow. But you gotta put in the time. And when I say there's a lot of time involved in this, there is an epic amount of time. Like, I think we broke 300 hours streamed so far. Keeping in mind, most of that, the lion's share of that, is when we couldn't stream the game.
Yeah, that's a good point.
So, you gotta be able to kind of build an audience off of not just off of more than what's the basic. You can't be doing what everyone else is doing and be able to pull away from the pack. Like, the best example of this is the streaming Call of Duty Warzone. There's 6,000 people streaming it right now. And you're like, in order to get seen, you're gonna need 15 to 20 people to watch, because otherwise, like, nobody's scrolling down to 0 viewers. Like, there's you're not adding anything to it. But if you turn around and you have you have some sort of unique edge that you can utilize, that's how you gain an advantage and be able to stream something that Sorry, I just realized the stream title never changed. It's still Endgame burned to 60. Whoops.
Well, I mean, if you guys out there have any questions that you want to have asked about our, burning to the level 60, then have at it for sure.
Yeah. Change the title of
I
this.
I, I know that I know that getting to that last little level, that last amount to get to 60 did frustrate A's quite a bit.
Oh my god.
It kind of did. It did to me as well to some degree.
It was painful because like I was so close to getting 60 for like a few hours, and it was just like that last level took. I think the last level took like 6 hours. Thanks for the follows, guys. I really do appreciate it. What is the state or known state of the end game? There are so there are 2 expeditions that are targeted at the late game. That I think are going to be actually pretty challenging. There's also like a lot of end game areas in terms of like Shattered Mountain and Mark Guard that are obviously designed for level 60s to be in groups to run them in the open world. And on top of that, you've got, expeditions or dungeons, 5-person dungeons. My hope is that eventually they'll add larger dungeons. And then they've got the what's playing right now, which is Outpost Rush, which I think is going to be the big reason for people to get to the end game, because this is level 60. This is level 60 combat PvP. Consistent queue up. You get in. You can join with squads of up to 5, and all that. McLeod, I'm gonna have you take over for a second. I gotta step away. Sorry.
Really? Oh, okay. I was slightly distracted there in that regard, in terms of the what was being talked about to some degree. But yeah, like 20-man raids, that kind of thing. Like, I kind of feel like having the instance raids are definitely something that is a lot more controllable from a sort of programmable sort of standpoint. At least when it comes to AGS. There are, and I've seen sort of mentions of various different formulations of raids that could be a little bit more interesting, regarding, say for example, raids that are, say for example 20-man raids, but you actually have a situation where you have a different 20-man raid coming into the same area to some degree, and that could prove to be interesting, especially if that raid is in some way PvP flagged. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah, sorry about that, dude. Like, I don't know why. Hopefully this is coming through a little bit better. Anyway, that's an idea that was definitely out there on the forums, and also on Reddit to some degree. Yeah. I'm not entirely certain quite where you want to go with in regards to sort of like the other sort of raid content in that regard. Yeah. I mean, I think there's definitely going to be more PvE sort of content coming our way with the development, because like I think 20-man raids is definitely going to be is definitely not the limit in any way, shape, or form. It depends entirely on whether AGS kind of like opens up the amount of people that you can have in a particular group, because I think that's to some degree a limiting factor in some way, shape, or form, and I kind of feel like that's probably going to be coming down or going to be augmented at some point, because when you play something like this, for example, what you see right here, this is 20 man, but like obviously you only have you have separate groups of 5 to be able to do. But like I think when it comes to sort of raids or sort of like PvE raids kind of thing, and dungeons, like having this separation in groups of 5 like isn't really gonna. I can't see how it would function properly. Unless the raids are in groups of 5, but you're not actually specifically set to sort of be going, in like 4 groups of, like if it's like a 20, like 4 groups of 5, like I don't think that's really going to pan out too well. That particular situation, yeah, there's in this particular game mode, yeah, you do get some degree of PvE kind of raid bosses to a degree in Outpost Rush. So that's kind of cool. And it's something that you can actually summon. Like there's a certain degree of summoning that you can summon a sort of like a PvE style kind of raid boss to be able to sort of protect your particular kind of area, or sort of fight for you to some degree. What it kind of does is it basically it sort of ignores your team and goes after the other team essentially. So yeah, and in that kind of sense, as Malak kind of said, like it is, this game mode is very much a PvPvE. So yeah, it has some very interesting moments, and there's some really kind of cool mechanics that like really help sort of enforce that, but also help balance certain aspects of PvP gameplay that help out. One of them is the ability, like essentially you're fighting a sort of a PvE kind of boss, and whichever team gets basically the final blow, the death kill, the death blow to that raid boss, you essentially freeze your opponent's score for like I think it's 5 minutes or so. Something
Yeah, I think
like
it's
that.
5 minutes. Yeah, I'm back by the way.
And that can be crucial. That can be the turning point of a of a game, and it's very well balanced.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm a little bit low apparently, according to chat still.
Really?
I had to.
You're
Yeah.
like destroying my ears.
Oh, okay.
At least
Apparently, I was a little low on the.
I think you're on. I mean, you're
on
on
the
par
stream.
with where I'm at
Okay.
in terms of audio level.
I adjusted myself a little bit. Hopefully hopefully it's good now. But like, yeah. Either way, I digress.
As I turned down the knob on my headset. Yeah, I'm not against turning them up, but like, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think Outpost Rush really is a cool game mode. I'm really looking forward to like more people having access to it.
Yeah. I hope it starts. I hope Amazon Games kind of does at least some small degree of like cross-server kind of Outpost Rush
the
play.
frozen score is for 3 minutes.
Oh, for 3 minutes.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. I mean, 3 minutes is still like an eternity when it comes to sort of like a close fought battle kind of thing.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. So, are there any weapons we're looking forward to? So I think for me, I keep saying that I'm going to go Dex, but I end up going Strength. I ended up going Strength for almost the entire our Strength Constitution for literally the entire beta. As much as I wanted it to.
I think I swapped and changed a little bit to some degree. I wanted to try out. I wanted to essentially get to the point where I could do a constitution focus, a strength focus build. Didn't quite get to it. I was missing a few things in terms of the fit. Various different armor pieces and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah. The funny thing was, like, the full con build was just so powerful for leveling, and then once you got to level 60, it wasn't anywhere near as powerful. Like, never neglect having Constitution, but also, make sure that you're not just getting, make sure that you're also getting damage when you're at the higher level.
Yeah. Just got hit in the face, kind of thing.
He's getting hit by that pylon off in the distance. That's funny. But I mean, like, that's yeah. There's going to be a lot of different opportunities for different weapons. Obviously, I think that we're going to see some balance changes when it comes to the actual launch. I don't think that we'll see the same. I don't think that we'll see 100% of the same stuff that we saw in the beta. I also would assume, and comfortably assume, that there's going to be things that we didn't see at all that are very much going to be a surprise to people. And yeah.
Yeah.
I think that I think we're gonna see some cool stuff, and I'm actually really excited to see what happens over the first 6 months after launch, for what new content comes in. We know that Brimstone Sands is going to be probably the next region that comes out, and there appears to be a connection with the Roman legions, which hopefully that also means Roman skins. Yeah. So we've been rolling for about 2 hours. So here's what I'm gonna do. First and foremost, I want to thank our Patreons. I want to thank our subscribers. I want to thank our moderation team and our all of the follows, all of the people that are just here chilling. Simply put, we don't do this. We wouldn't do this show without you. So thank you guys for everything. And what we normally do after the show is we're going to pop into our public chat channels and just hang out. So, if you guys have more questions, or if you just want to chill and talk New World, there's any number of different opportunities or topics, or etc. You can see on the Discord. There's a ton of different things we talk about.
Yeah.
Couldn't get past the bot. There should be a react to a message.
Yeah.
We'll as long as you can see the public voice one is the one we'll be going into. We'll drop down there in just a little bit. So. Again, I want to thank everybody. I think the stream topped out at 47, which is great for us, especially considering it's an off week. It's it's a Friday night.
We haven't done a show for a little bit, in actual fact. So it's awesome to see getting pretty close to 50, which is awesome.
Yeah. So with that, again, thank you guys. Thank you for joining the longest running show for New World.
Yeah.
Not just in terms of we have a tendency to run for hours and hours, but we are the oldest New World talk show in existence. And we hope to continue to be the source of good information for you guys through launch and well into the future. So thank you all. And we will see you in the New World.
Yeah.